We try to really pay attention to the melody, to the intonation, the rhythm, the pronunciation, basically from the very first class.
I mean, again and again, the most important things when it comes to learning languages is having somebody that can also help you out, because you were alone doing these interviews, which, hey, I mean, at least you get some experience to running your own podcast, you know? But we're going to talk about content creation in a while. But it's also interesting because, like, maybe at the very beginning, there weren't a lot of ways to get in contact with people that knew the language. Nowadays, there's tons of places where you can find either courses, or you can even find people on Tandem, for example, that know Swedish, so you can practice your own interviewing skills directly with someone from Sweden. And I think that's something that, especially nowadays, it is doing such a good job at helping people kind of break that beginner wall, or there's a different word for it, of like barriers of entry. Like, you destroy the barriers of entries because there's so many different ways to kind of directly get into the real nucleus of the language. I don't know, I went to like 6 different directions, never mind, sorry. But
I completely understand.
okay, fantastic. So I don't have to redo that line. But it's interesting because, like, this has been so far a lot about the construct and the objective way to speak Swedish. But it is an entire different part of Swedish that can be interesting to learn, and it's more about communication styles. So I wanted to ask you, as someone that has a lot of experience now talking in 2 very different countries, I would assume at least, like, what were the most surprising culture shocks when learning Swedish? Both, I mean, you said already grammatic, we already went there, but also about the communication styles.
Absolutely. So I think especially because I speak Serbian, which is a very polite, very formal language. Of course, depending on who you're talking to, Swedish was a very big jump for me in feeling comfortable, because everyone is a friend when you're speaking Swedish. Like, oh, this 80-year-old grandma, hello, hello, Maria. I'm like, I cannot say that to an 80-year-old grandma, actually. I need to say, like, hello, madam, how are you? No. So, Swedish, very informal. It's a very informal, I would say, culture, which reflects also on the language, obviously. So I can also give you like a little rundown historically regarding that. So back in the days, Swedish and Sweden in general, of course, had hierarchy, right? So they had certain polite way of addressing people, and then they were like, we want everyone to be equal, right, in society. And so they decided to ditch that, and they were like, let's just say you to everyone. In English, this makes no sense now, I realize, as I'm talking, but
Yeah, there's no
you
formal
is
and
really
informal you.
exactly. But I'm sure that people who are watching this also know other languages, so they will get what I'm trying to convey here. But yeah, they decided to ditch formality and to really enforce informal way of talking in general. So instead of saying good morning, I don't know, hello in some super formal way to your boss, they're gonna be like, hey, Eric, like, how are you? Or like, oh, see you tomorrow, Eric. So when I was talking to my Swedish teachers, who were from Sweden, obviously, and when they told me, stop addressing me as like respected professor, please send me the document. Just tell me like, hey, Eric, send me the document. I was like, I cannot do that. I will actually explode on the spot if I send an email with that content. So yeah, I think it's a very big shock for all of those who come from different countries where there is some sort of formality, to come to such country where everyone is a friend, so everyone is informal and everyone is on hey greetings, basically. So
And how do you do it now that you teach Swedish? Like, are you the same? Do you tell your students, so please use the informal way?
absolutely.
So you get
The
used to
teacher
it.
became the master now, so I do the same. Definitely do the same. I don't feel bad about it, probably because, it's been almost 10 years since I've been forced, with shaking hands to write, hey, Eric, please send me the documents. But I feel like maybe because most of my students are similar to me in age, and so But I do have some older ones, and I also told them, please, let's just keep it informal. We are friends here. Let's just be, hey, hey, how are you? So there is no formality in my classes.
It's interesting. I want to kind of reel back to a little mistake that you had about you talked about Spanish, because there's a connection about this sort of informal way. This is a very deep cut. For our second episode, we talked about Mexican Spanish. And the thing about Mexican Spanish is that it has the same exact difference compared to like the original European Spanish, where everybody has it's the same level. There's no formal version of Mexican Spanish. So they also adapted this everybody's equal mentality, and you can definitely show it when you do talk to people from that place, where they keep everything is a lot more friendly, everything is a lot more close and a little bit more like personal. There's not a lot of separation of hierarchy. So it's very interesting to see that like such different countries, Sweden, pretty like Nordic, cold, has the same exact setup as the Central American Mexican Spanish. So hey, if you wanted to learn Spanish, maybe this is a great way to do it. You can do the Mexican way, so you don't have to learn two different methods of speaking.
You're proving the name of the podcast perfectly, yes. I would say, with this.
Yes, thank you. Somebody finally understands.
Yes. So when you visit Sweden or you speak in Swedish, what are some moments where the language kind of suddenly unlocks a deeper part of culture for you?
I would say people really appreciate when you speak Swedish in Sweden, so they really like to hear it. Even though it may not be perfect or you're still working on your melody, your intonation, they really like it. And so it feels friendlier for some reason. It feels less formal in general. And people are more likely to just chit chat with you about, I don't know, if you're walking your dog or if you're drinking your coffee, or you have heard about the infamous Fika concept there. So it's definitely... It's just more natural, I would say. Of course, Swedish people, very known for knowing English. They speak credible English, so if you go to Sweden, you will never have a problem with that. But if you speak Swedish, it just feels cozier, which is a concept they're all about. So I think that kind of makes a good definition of it. Something that is cozy and personal and just more informal and friendlier, I would say.
And I think Michaela looked a bit confused when you talked about the Fika concept.
I don't know what that Fika concept is, because in Italian it means something very bad. So you better explain yourself what Fika is as a concept.
Oh no, Fika! Please leave the podcast right now.
And I can continue here. It's fine.
Exactly. I'm the new host.
I'm joking. Please teach me. I'm here to get connected to languages, and this is the best way to do it.
Of course. So Fika is the concept of taking a little break during your workday, usually with your colleagues or with your friends, to have a little sip of coffee or tea or hot chocolate with some snacks, usually something sweet like a cinnamon bun or, I don't know, like a saffron bun and stuff like that. And they love it. So if you ask a Swedish person, like, how many fikas should we have a day? They're gonna be like, at least 2. Like, do not talk to me if there is a day without Fika. So I would say that's something that you really should experience if you go to Sweden. Just having a little break, drinking your coffee and eating your cinnamon roll. That's what being Swedish is all about.
That's very nice. And how did you know about this concept, Michelle?
Actually, because I did a crash course in Swedish once
Okay.
for 1 week. And only after that, I realized that if you go to an IKEA store, there is a little section that has written the letters Fika on it. And there you get the little sweets and like you can take a break from shopping furniture. So you can have it internationally exported to other countries if you go to an IKEA store.
I definitely noticed it about this. I live very close to an IKEA where I live right now in Berlin, so I could definitely go and find this secret room for myself. Because I don't think a lot of people in Germany knows what a Fika is anyway.
No.
And if you ask an Italian, they would be horrified. So I'm not going to say what it means, by the way, and I will not put it on screen. You do your own research if you're an adult. If you're a kid, don't do that. But so it's yeah, I will do my mission and I will report back if I can
That
find it.
Work for next time.
Yeah, it's homework. Thank you. It's the homework for next lesson. So okay, so Swedish seems like a very fun language to learn, and I think people that maybe stumble across this video maybe are going to be interested in learning the language. So if someone wanted to start Swedish, like what concrete steps or technique would you recommend based on your own journey?
So there is a tiny problem, I would say, with Swedish and learning on your own, for example, and that is that most books are in Swedish. So you're kind of like reading instructions in Swedish, and you're like, I don't know what that says actually. So I would say it's a little bit difficult when you're doing it yourself. So I would recommend maybe starting with someone, with a teacher or a tutor, just, in the beginning if you need it.